Hello, everyone. I'm just going to give a quick sort of 30 seconds or a minute just to let everyone join, get settled. Okay, brilliant. So I'll get started now. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my first webinar, an introduction to snapshot reporting. So the aim of this is to really sort of lay the foundations, get you comfortable with snapshot reporting, and begin sort of experimenting with snapshot reports, uh, this new feature that we introduced last year. Who am I? I'm Chris, a junior consultant here at Workbooks. I've been here for 2 years, or 2 years and 6 days to be exact. I started off in the support team, moved to managed service, and now I've found myself in the PS team. So a bit about upcoming webinars. So hopefully a couple of weeks ago, you guys were lucky enough to attend Casper's webinar on mastering your charts, sort of maximizing the value of your data visually. He'll follow this one up in a couple of weeks with adding targets to those charts, jazzing them up a little bit more, and then we're going to pivot away from reporting towards more of an admin side of things with setting up email accounts as well as setting up the WES, and there are plenty more interesting things to come. The agenda today, I'll give a sort of introduction about snapshot reports, how they work. I'll also show quite a simple but useful visual demonstration to show how they work. And then we'll talk about a couple of the use cases, namely data flattening and trend analysis. And then we'll dive into hopefully a successful live demo of configuring a snapshot report and then taking those records that the snapshot report has generated and visualizing that. I'll then sort of round things up with some top tips that have saved me many a headache along the way. And I will say that the session will be recorded, so please feel free to hop in and out, and I will not be offended if you need to leave. So what are snapshot reports? So very much as the name suggests, they are snapshots of data in a report at a particular period of time. The rows in that report create new records, and the columns in the report feed into the fields of those records. These snapshots are taken in what we call batches, and they're scheduled to run using the inbuilt scheduler, so daily, weekly, or monthly, and you can also decide how long you retain them. So whether that's indefinitely, the most recent copy, I think there's an hour in there, there's a year, there's all sorts to choose from, and we'll see that in the live demo. So to get started, really simple, you just need a pro license or the custom records extension. And then with respect to modules, you just need to enable the custom records module and the report snapshots module. And here's that visual demonstration that I spoke about earlier. So in this, we're going to look at opportunity histories, one of the sort of more simpler snapshots that you can take. And we'll just be looking at this report, looking at all of our opportunities in our pipeline. Now, normally the snapshot report would run and create a record for every single row in that report. But in this case, we're just going to isolate the first one. So the snapshot report runs, extracts that data and stores it into a new record associated to week 1 or batch 1. Same thing again, week 2 takes the data, stores it into a new record associated with batch 2. Same again, week 3, batch 3, and I'm not going to do any more of these. I'm sure you get the point. But with even in this sort of simple example, you can begin to see the benefits of snapshot reporting just to see how that single opportunity has progressed down your pipeline week by week. Okay, so we've seen how they're created, and this is the output of that. So here we have 2 rows equating to 2 records, and there are a few things to note here. So the first, you might be thinking, what determines the data type or the field type on the custom record? And that's decided by the data type on the of the column in the report. So for example, we have close date, which will be a date. It will create a date field there. LI net amount is going to be a currency field or a currency column, so it will create a currency field. Secondly, if you include an ID of a record, so in this case it's opportunity ID, in the custom record that's created, it will create a DLI to the live instance of that opportunity. So if I was to click into this funnel, it would open it up. And also, if you're reporting on it, I could drill through into this and access, say, the live stage of where the opportunity is currently at, and compare it to where it was at the date that the snapshot was created. Finally, just a small thing to note is looking at how basic it looks. There's the primary focus or the primary purpose of snapshot reporting is mainly to report on that data. You're not having to manage it as much as you would, say, an opportunity or a case record. But that's not to say that you still can't make a really nice form layout for it. You still have the option to create form layouts. So a couple of use cases now. We have trend analysis and data flattening. With respect to trend analysis, because you're taking a snapshot of data from a report every week, every day, week, or month, it means that you can compare how the record or the data from the report looked from 1 week to another week to the next, and you can begin to see how it's changed over time, and therefore you can start to see trends. So some examples of that would be looking at the pipeline, creating what we'd call a pipeline progression chart, where you would see how your current open opportunities or the value of your current open opportunities has changed month by month. To add some more depth to that report, you could introduce a field like stage so that you can split the total value of your opportunities month by month by its stage. And perhaps you could see, say, a declining number of early stage opportunities. As a sales director or a marketing director, seeing that could motivate you to sort of enhance your efforts in lead generation. In support, something that we love is open cases snapshot. So seeing how many cases your customers are opening month by month or week by week. To get more depth from that, you could introduce category, and you could split the total number of cases by stage category. So you could understand the area that your customers are particularly struggling with, and say send an email out telling them how to do this particular task, or maybe update a knowledge base page for us. Finally is contract annual recurring revenue. So seeing how your annual recurring revenues changed over time, what's your expansion, what's your churn. You could add the year of the contract, and by introducing the year of the contract, you could see things such as perhaps your annual recurring revenues increasing due to current customers buying more, or it could be perhaps due to new customers being introduced. And here's the example of pipeline progression. In the live demo, I'll show you how to build this. But it shows the sort of the total value of the pipeline, and it's split up by stage. Next, we have data flattening. So this is when data is held in multiple different places and needs to be brought into one place to make it easy to report on. A really good example of this is online activity reporting. So that's where you can have sort of hundreds or thousands of online activities related to the same record. And when you're doing reports on that, the report is carrying out calculations across every single one of those thousands, hundreds, tens of thousands of online activity records, which can often slow down a report. What snapshot reporting allows you to do is just to pre-calculate those values and just extract the output, put that output on a record and report on the record. And when you're reporting on the record, you're not having to do all those calculations on all those records over and over again. So examples of that are sort of very record heavy reports such as customer engagement and campaign performance. And the final feature can sometimes be confusing, but you'll get the hang of it once you set up a few snapshots, is matching columns. And what these allow you to do is to break your snapshot report up into smaller, more manageable reports. And then you can connect rows from different reports together if they have the same matching column ID. I'll show you a visual demonstration of this so you get a better understanding of it. So here we have 3 different reports on campaign performance. We've got one of value of open ops per campaign, total web page views per campaign, and total emails open per campaign. And if we're wanting to sort of pull them together and add them all onto one record associated to the same campaign, what we'd do is we would set the matching column to the campaign ID. This would then line up all the rows that have the same campaign ID, like so. And the output would look like the following. Okay, so we've got the theoretical, we've understood the theory, let's put it into practice. So I'm just going to open up this test database here. And to configure a snapshot, what we want to do is click the start. I'm going to create the report from here instead of the landing page. And in this example, for time's sake, I'm going to use a template. So Workbooks automatically comes with 4 templates for snapshot reports, 1 on cases, 3 on opportunities. So I'll just filter by contains snapshot. And I'll just use this op details one. And these are really good to get started because they include all the columns that you'd need traditionally. You can go ahead and add any other additional ones that you might need as well. But yeah, really good sort of launch pad to your journey into snapshot reporting. I always like to prefix my snapshot reports with snapshot, just so if anyone comes along and tries to delete it, they'll think twice. Snapshot report, let's do opportunity history. If I can spell, and I did, yes. So as you can see, it comes with a bunch of different fields or columns that will be traditionally used in an opportunity history snapshot. So let's go ahead and save that. Next, I'm going to navigate to the Snapshots tab and then click on Add Snapshot. With the name, I'll give it something like Opportunity History. There we go. And I'll just put demo alongside it, demo webinar. And it's going to autofill a lot of things, but with the plural, name plural, it's going to whack an S on the end. Object reference, it's just going to capitalize everything and remove the spaces, and root is going to stick an underscore instead of the spaces. So let's just shorten this to op hist dw. You can also change the icon here, but I tend to just keep it as report snapshots. You can set the data retention. So what I spoke about earlier, there is a huge list to choose from. But if we're going to look at opportunity history across our pipeline throughout the year, let's just set it to 12 months. For time's sake, I'm going to click automatically add fields. It's also because it's a template report, so it includes most of the columns that you're going to need. There's not going to be any junk in there. But if you're experimenting, I would untick this because occasionally you're adding multiple reports. You're experimenting, adding different columns, different calculated columns, and you don't want these to be created automatically. You don't want to have to go back and continuously delete a lot of fields. Next, when building your first snapshot or your first type of a certain snapshot, I would untick read-only records. This is just so you can delete them, so you can manipulate them a bit more, just so you've got a bit more freedom to get them to where you want them to be. All right, so now we're ready. Let's create, and we should see a few more options pop up. So we've got the scheduler here, scheduler, not sure which one. You can set it to run daily. If I untick all these, I could set it to, and leave one, I could set it to be weekly. I could also set it to run monthly, say first selected day of each month or last selected day of each month. As well as that, you can also set it to run a particular time. I would advise against a time where there's a large number of users on your system, so 6 a.m. is perfect. Next up, you're going to want to enable it, and then just save. As you're setting, effectively you're creating, or you are creating new custom records, it will take time to create all of the custom fields. One thing I will say is that at times people don't know how to manually add the fields in. So let me just walk you through that. Let's go ahead and untick that. Let's save that. And in this base snapshot report, where all these fields were created from the columns, let's add in a new column. So for example, we wanted to see how our, say if we were expanding into Europe, we'd want to know the customer country. We might want to see how the number of opportunities, how many opportunities there are in Denmark from one month to the next. So let's go ahead and add that in, save. And then if we save this or refresh this opportunity history snapshot, it will highlight that we have one field missing from the base report. Like so. Now to add that in, we can just head over to reports, open up that report, add field, tick the box, save and close. And you'll see in this field section that customer country will be added, or it's being created. You can also add additional fields if you think you need to, like so, just as you would any other record type. If you go back off there, you can also add, and you can also create your own custom form layout, just as you would any other record. Once you're happy, you would click Generate Now, and all the records would populate down here. And you'd be able to see them, observe them, tweak them, delete them, just as you would any other record. All right, so we've learned how to configure these. Let's go ahead let's see how we can use these records to output some nice results, some nice data. So I've gone ahead and already set up a snapshot report or some equivalent records here. I've called it Demo Opportunity Histories. These are very similar to the records that we would have created with the snapshot that we've just configured. It's just obviously I didn't want everyone waiting for 20 records to get created, so I've gone ahead and built this before the webinar. These are a lot more simple, but not different from the previous ones. So let's build a report that uses them. We're going to build a pipeline progression report like we did before, like we saw before earlier in the webinar. So we go ahead, create a new report, find the record type that we've created, Demo Opportunity Histories. We'd give it a name. So let's call it Pipeline Progression Webinar Report. I also like to, I forgot this time, but I do like to prefix when you're analyzing snapshot reports, report records with snapshot analysis. That's just personal preference, and that works for me. I'd also highlight that you should always give a good description about what the report's intending to do. So let's go ahead and start adding some columns here. So I've actually, in the snapshot report that creates these records, I've included, if we just go back actually, I've included the opportunity ID and also the prospective customer ID. So I've got DLIs and drill throughs to those different records, which is perfect for this use case. So let's go ahead, drill through to the opportunity and get the name. So let's go opportunity, name. Let's go ahead and then fetch the prospective customer name. Name here. And then we're going to add, say, the created at date or the date created, so that we can then group by that date. We're also going to add a stage so that we can then split our opportunity pipeline per month by the opportunity stage. Let's get the amount in the home currency so that we can sum and get the total of our pipeline. And I believe that should be it. I'll have a quick look, see if I've missed anything. It doesn't look like it. Now we've got this details view, let's create a summary so that we can do the groupings and split up the opportunity pipeline value. Okay, we'll give this the name pipeline progression by month. So for the grouping, let's add the grouping in first. Let's group by created date. And then we're going to do, so you'll see there are about 6 months worth of data, 7 months. And we're going to add a split column here where we're taking the total value of the pipeline and then splitting by stage, like so. Split type, just choose all values from parent view. Okay, so one tweak I see here is I'm actually going to change how this is displayed. And you can do that by doing the following. You can go open up the field that you want displayed differently, the date field. Go to Advanced, go on to Display As, Formatted Date, and let's go ahead and change it to month, year, year, year. Brilliant, yeah, it's displaying as I'd want. Let's just check the summary. And yeah, it's displaying in a nice format. So just by looking at this report, we haven't charted it yet, but you can see we've sort of injected this sort of cohort of early stage opportunities, and we've now seen it trickle down the pipeline. Some of the opportunities are getting lost, perhaps some are getting won. They're moving to these later stages as we go. So let's visualize that. Go ahead and run the report. And now I'm going to click Chart This View. Let's click Create a Bar Chart. Always give it a good name. So I'm going to call it monthly, if I can spell, monthly pipeline progression. For the vertical axis, we're going to choose the amount split by stage. We'll give it the name of pipeline value. On advanced, because we're going to want to see the bars stacked on top of each other, we'll tick this. And then on the created date, I'm going to just give it the label month. And hopefully, when we click Create Chart, we should have a lovely looking chart. Brilliant. So you can see how we've, just like I said, we've injected this group of early stage opportunities, or stage 1 qualified opportunities, and we can see how it's progressed along the pipeline. We can see how the number of stage 1 opportunities have shrunk. We can see how the number of stage 2 has grown and then began to shrunk as they've moved out the pipeline or moved into stage 3. And we can see the same with stage 3 as well. Brilliant. So let's move back into the presentation. We've learned how to configure a snapshot, and we've also learned how to get value from that snapshot data, building a report and a chart with that. And now for some top tips. The first one, so if your report isn't standard, so if it's not a template, if it's likely to get complex. When I started with snapshot reports, one of the main issues that I ran into was I was very cavalier about it. I was thinking, yeah, let's just add this field, add that field, and I wouldn't be thinking too much of the end goal. I just hoped I would get there along the way. But the best thing to do is just slow down, open up an Excel document, and start to plan out how you'd want the resulting report to look like. Once you know that resulting report, once you know what you want to split by, what you want to group by, you can then begin to visualize and see how your data needs to be structured. Once you know how you want your data to be structured, you're going to want you know how those initial snapshot reports are going to look like. Next top tip, be mindful of your data. In this day and age, data isn't free. I don't think it's ever been free, but anyway. So say if I was taking a snapshot of my entire opportunity pipeline and there were 3,000 opportunities, every day I'm creating 3,000 new records. By the end of the year, I've created over 1 million records, which is obviously going to take up a lot of storage. So perhaps instead of running that daily, you could run that monthly, and you would only have created 36,000 records. If you did want to see that granularity, then maybe think about, if you're going to run a daily snapshot on opportunity histories, maybe only keep it for a month or the quarter. The next top tip is as you go, document your work. Often at times, snapshots you can add things, you can tweak things. Um, it can get fairly complicated. So it's always good to keep sort of a living document of the tweaks you've made, why you've made the tweaks, just so that future you can refer back to them, and also your colleagues can refer back to them if they pick up the work or need to make any tweaks to that to the data. Finally, I mentioned it before, but when using multiple reports, it may be easier to untick automatically add fields. Once again, if you've got automatically added fields and you're playing around, you're adding different columns, you can your snapshot report could begin to get clogged up with unnecessary fields, and it could take you a long while to clean up the mess that you've made. With that, that concludes my my first webinar. So if you've got any questions, I'll be happy to have a stab at answering them. I do get that snapshot reports are complicated, but we're here for you and to help you on your snapshot reporting journey. Thank you. Okay, so there aren't any. Oh, um, so thank you, Abdul, for your question, which is in what instance would you create the field from the report, as I did in the demo, and when would you create the field from the snapshot record? So as far as creating the field from the report, I'd say that's when you're wanting to capture data, when you're not wanting to do it manually. But when would you create the field from the snapshot record is perhaps if you're wanting to manage the data in some way, or perhaps you're wanting to import data into a new field. Okay, brilliant. Okay, brilliant. Well, if you have any additional questions, then please feel free to reach out to support or check out our knowledge base. Our next drop-in webinar, as I mentioned, will be Casper's sort of taking your charts to the next level, creating targets. And then, as I said, we'll sort of pivot away from reports for the time being and go to more of the admin side. So a few top tips. If you need help, check out the knowledge base. It's always a sure place to go. Click the question mark icon on records within Workbooks. And don't forget to bookmark workbooks.com/help. If you do need further help, feel free to, as an authorized support contact, feel free to reach out to support@workbooks.com, or go ahead and call up one of our staff, or raise a case by the case portal, or alternatively, contact your account manager. Recordings and videos will be found at this link and here. And you'll also be able to access webinar recordings at workbooks.com/resources, and you can filter the resource type by webinar recordings. Thanks very much. Thanks for attending. I really hope you learned something and took value from this. And I look forward to hearing about all your snapshot reporting stories.